2025, the level of risk for high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals is at a whole different level. Hi, I'm John Rusk. I'm the founder of Rusk Renovations, partner with my wife, Mary Cosi, and our daughter, Eve Rusk, who's now joined us and is a fifth generation builder in the family. We've been building luxury residences in New York City for the last almost 40 years. So one of our biggest superpowers is related to another thing that I've done for a long time. I've been working in dispute resolution for the last 32 years. Because of that, I've seen all the mistakes people can make, both on the owner side, the contractor side, and the design professional side. And that has led us to a serious kind of risk mitigation stance. There are more categories of risk than we typically think of. So we think of risk as security. And I think today, in 2025, the level of risk for high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals is at a whole different level. We take this stuff very seriously. We work with a lot of individuals at this caliber. And so we have even a separate division at Rusk called Rusk Lock that uses NSA grade servers and email and other protocols to really safeguard digital information as well as all kinds of security stuff. We partner with a third party I think he was 20 years in the CIA, who does walkthroughs of the property just to think through what risks there are. But there are other risks too. So increasing cost is a real risk. That is a risk for the designer too. And so using strategies to mitigate that by bringing in a contractor early on to do sequential costings for the project so that the project is the final design is within the client's budget. It just makes everything go so much easier because then if there is a change order, there's the money to pay for it. And then finally, there's reputational risk. People especially don't always think about that as they're pursuing a townhouse or a condo or a co-op, but they have neighbors that they're going to live with afterwards. We oftentimes see ourselves as the emissaries for our clients, so we try not to make extra noise or extra dust. We try to make good friends with the neighbors. So, as all of us have heard since Watergate, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. People make mistakes all the time, and so when we make mistakes, if we say, I made a mistake, I'm so sorry, that generally ends it. When people deny mistakes, it goes on, and when people actively hide the mistake, that's when there can be the break in trust that breaks down the whole relationship. Because I think in every construction project, there is somebody talking to your client from the beginning who's suggesting they shouldn't hire you. They have a favorite design professional. They have a favorite contractor. Why are you hiring this person? And your client has chosen you over their best friend's advice because they like you and they trust you. And so if they ever find out that in some way you are deceiving them, that's the kind of thing that just drives clients crazy. So never being caught in a lie, and in the age of the internet, you will always be caught. That's the unfortunate. So you just can't lie. If you're getting into a more formal dispute, you recognize your client is unhappy with you, you need to slow down. You need to get legal counsel as soon as possible to kind of advise you as you go along so that you make sure you make the right steps, to review the emails that go out. People often forget that everything in the American justice system, whether it be text or emails, as long as it's not privileged conversation between you and your attorney, is going to be subject to discovery. And then before you send out emails to clients addressing the dispute, being very careful about making sure you get the facts correct. Because having a control of the facts is so important. Using screenshots, we do a lot here because we do a lot of construction. And so just pointing out a screenshot, here's from the contract, here's from the email, here's from the schedule, and this is where we are today, it makes it very easy for people to go, that's what was said, that's what was said. When people are upset, when they're confronted with the fact that in fact you really do have the facts on your side, I find that generally people will start to relax. Or they'll see something that they never saw. That, in other words, they're angry because they misunderstood something, and once they are reminded of something, they will oftentimes calm down. it's very hazardous to resign a client, because the person who's going to come after you will oftentimes look back at your aesthetic decisions and find that the scale is completely wrong or the color is completely wrong, and therefore they're going to want that money back, because oftentimes they've made deposits for things and the new interior designer is going to say, oh, none of this works. This is terrible. You need to go in another direction. And then potentially you're going to be in a dispute over those things. Here at Rusk, we try to finish everything, just do our best to protect our staff, and get to the end of the project as best we can, take care of the project, hope that the client may have a change of heart, but still we want to leave the project as well and finished as we possibly can. All of us are used to working with, in stressful situations and with demanding clients. That's just part of the work. But there is this line kind of between demanding clients and abusive clients, and we all, for our own sanity and our staff, we really have to stop those abusive clients. And when they become abusive, it's not to say keep going as they abuse you. You need to stop the abuse, clearly and directly. A contract is super important, and many of the disputes that I've seen are when people used contracts that were not well crafted by a design professional attorney. Whether you're in a big town or a small town, general practice attorneys are not great for this. It is much better to have an attorney who specializes in design professionals. If you can find an attorney who is also an arbitrator or a mediator within the American Arbitration Association, where many design disputes are resolved, that is an indicator that that attorney works within this world and really understands arbitration, mediation, dispute resolution for the design world. Typically, if there is an inconsistency in the contract, it's held against the drafter of the contract. So if you're the designer and you give a contract and it has an ambiguity that the client could have understood in another way, generally the arbitrator or judge will then side with them because it was your contract and it shouldn't have been ambiguous. As you might imagine, Rusk, with 40 years of experience of building in New York City, we have made many mistakes over the years. But we have salved those wounds by basically building a best practices manual. I think we have 29 different checklists. Just every mistake that we've ever found we've made, people make mistakes, people make 5 mistakes an hour. So every mistake pretty much that we've made that's been serious, we've kind of analyzed it, figured out how not to do it again, because the checklist then you can broadcast to the other members of your team. In other words, an experienced person has made mistakes, they won't make them again. But not everyone in your team is going to have all the same experience. So you don't want to have to keep making the same mistake for everyone on your team. So that's why we use checklists. And frankly, we find that really good employees actually like when there is a process and a set of rules, because then they know what their expectation is, rather than making a mistake and being yelled at for doing it wrong. In this way, they know what the goal is, and it makes it easier.